COVID 19 coronavirus disease 2019, which is caused by SARS coronavirus type 2. Then where is type 1? So it is already happened in 2002. Severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus type 1 pandemic has happened already in 2002, that was eradicated successfully. Now current SARS coronavirus type 2 structurally similar to same virus. So after a decade, exactly 10 years back later in 2012, again MERS virus pandemic has happened. MERS means Middle East Respiratory Distress Syndrome virus. That is also successfully eradicated. Now we are living in the era of SARS coronavirus type 2. So WHO declared coronavirus disease 2019 in December 31st. So actually where it is exactly started. So we all know about it is started in China. Actually it is a disease of zoonosis transmitted from animals. So initially in the wild bats has carries this coronavirus type 2. This is the primary host. So from bats to pangolins, this is the intermediate host. So from these animals to humans as acquired as an accidental host. So we know that we have eaten that bats and pangolins, not we are exactly from Chinese. So from there to it is transmitted to humans. Then one human to another human, how it has transmitted? By two mechanisms. First thing, unhygienic. Second thing, through airborne transmission. So foreign nation countries usually they use western type of laboratories. So without proper hygiene they use tissue papers, and with the dirty hands they have touched all the surroundings. So the next person who came to use that same laboratory, so he used to touch all that areas, then he affected. So that is by unhygienic hands. Second thing, through airborne transmission. So one person who affected with this coronavirus, he can able to spread the virus to one person to another person by airborne transmission. So that virus, this virus has capability of spreading within 6 meters from human being. So it lives in the environment from 24 to 48 hours. This is the mode of transmission. Usually it is a zoonosis, initially from bats, from there to pangolins, from there to humans. One human to other human by unhygienic hands, and from through the airborne transmission. This is the mode of transmission. Coming to the R node, we learn it in SPM, PSM, Preventive Social Medicine. R node means reproductive ratio. So actually one infected human being is able to potentiate to spread the infection to at least 2 to 3 human beings. So from there to one person to other person, so many. So at least he can able to potentiate to transmit the infection from one person to 2 to 3 persons. Next, so what is the incubation period of this virus. So ideally 4 to 14 days is the incubation period. So maximum 24 to 28 days. That's why the symptomatology of these corona patients may last about to 14 days to up to 20 days, which means 2 to 4 weeks. That's why we are keeping them in quarantine from 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, next coming to the pathophysiology. So this is the most important thing to understand the coronavirus. If you understand this pathophysiology, then you can know about how clinical manifestations will appear, and you know about what are the investigation has to be done, and you know we have so many drugs which is a unproven drugs and we are giving as a clinical trials. So if you understand the pathophysiology exactly, and you know how to work this all these drugs and how to prevent to control this infection. So coming to the pathophysiology, so we have two lungs. In each lung we have three lobes. Yes, even also left side there is a obliterated middle lung which is called lingula. So in these lungs we have trachea, primary bronchus, secondary bronchus, and finally tertiary bronchus, bronchioles, finally alveoli. So we can zoom this one alveoli. So ideally respiratory epithelium is a pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. What is the meaning of respiratory system? It is starting from the external layers, from nostril to the alveolar-capillary membrane. So from nostrils to the up to tertiary bronchioles, it is lined by pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium with plenty of goblet cells which secretes the mucus, and when it enters into the alveoli proper, it may change into endothelium. So from endothelium it produces pneumocytes. Pneumocytes are the functional units of the lung. So we have two types of pneumocytes. Again endothelium, type 1 pneumocyte and type 2 pneumocytes. This is type 1 pneumocyte, this is type 2 pneumocyte. So functions of the pneumocytes are, these are the functional unit of the lung, which means alveoli. So functions of type 1 pneumocytes are for gaseous exchange and the production of type 2 pneumocytes, and had immune property, produces macrophages, engulf any foreign materials. These are the functions of type 1 pneumocytes. Then what is the functions of type 2 pneumocytes? So we know very well about type 2 pneumocytes which produce the surfactant. So surfactant, we know what is the mechanism of surfactant. It is a reduce the surface tension so that it prevents the alveoli to collapse in expiratory state. So surfactant is a dipalmitoyl phosphatidylcholine, which is a lipid layer which covers over the pneumocytes and which prevents the alveoli collapse in expiratory state. So this coronavirus is affinity for type 2 pneumocytes. So we can take one type 2 pneumocyte here. A very big diagrammatic representation of type 2 pneumocyte. So functions of type 1 is macrophage activator, gas exchange, and production of type 2 itself. And type 2 function is production of surfactant and maintain surface tension to prevent the collapse of alveoli in expiratory state. So coming to the type 2 pneumocytes. So this coronavirus transmitted through airborne transmission and enter into the respiratory tract and reaches the alveoli and affected the type 2 pneumocytes. Here is our coronavirus, which has multiple polypeptide spikes, which is called S spike. So S spike is a specific or special polypeptide spike for coronavirus, which is the main culprit. This is the virulence factor of coronavirus, which is resistant. This virulence factor is resistant for all the type of drugs. Those we are giving antiviral drugs, prophylactic antibiotics, and some protease inhibitors, everything, blah blah blah. So S spike, coronavirus has specific S spike polypeptide, which is specifically affinity for ACE type 2 receptors, which means angiotensin converting enzyme type 2 receptors. So ACE type 1 receptors are present in kidney, renal system. We know about that. So this S spike has specific affinity for angiotensin converting 2 receptors present in the type 2 pneumocytes, for which it transmitted into the pneumocytes and reaches the ribosomes of host cell. So type 2 pneumocyte is a cell. It has all apart from nucleus, ribosomes, Golgi apparatus, polypeptides, enzymes, everything. So it reaches the ribosome, and this coronavirus type 2 had single stranded RNA, which is a positive sense single stranded RNA, reaches to the host ribosome and undergo into translation. So finally, after translation, it produces the multiple polyproteins. So coronavirus enter into the alveoli, reaches the type 2 pneumocytes, which has specific S spike, which is a virulence factor coronavirus 2, that is the culprit for resistance of all the variety of drugs. So it reaches the cell by angiotensin converting enzyme type 2 receptors, where it reaches to the host ribosomes, 40S, 60S ribosome, and there it may go into translation, finally produce multiple polyproteins. So in this cell we know that we have cell had multiple enzymes. One enzyme is RNA dependent RNA polymerase, or DRP. So this single stranded positive sense RNA undergo, with the help of the RNA dependent RNA polymerase, which produce the multiple RNAs, messenger RNAs, which is ready to affinity for multiple nucleotides, enzymes, everything. Then finally it is able to produce new viruses. So this mRNA may go translation and produce multiple polyproteins, or it may underwent for production of multiple mRNAs by the help of the RNA dependent RNA polymerase. So coming to these polyproteins. These polyproteins, with the help of the enzyme protease, produces multiple intracellular organelles, just like multiple polypeptides, which are nothing but Williams factor S spikes and nucleocapsids. This virus is enveloped by the nucleocapsid, which had specific neuraminidase enzyme. And along with some enzymes. So we have multiple messenger RNAs along with nucleocapsid, polypeptides, enzymes, and nuclease, other intracellular organelles. Then finally these two things will fusion and replication, and finally forms new viruses. So this is ongoing process. So after production of multiple and plenty of viruses, these type T pneumocytes will burst out and releases the virus into the alveoli. So after production of multiple viruses in the type 2 pneumocytes, it releases the viruses into the alveolar space. What happens into the alveoli? So endothelium, type 1 pneumocyte, burst out or ruptured type 2 pneumocytes, which releases multiple viruses into the alveoli. So in the alveoli there is a lot of inflammatory mediator cells, and we know the functions of type 1 pneumocyte, immune mediated, which activates the macrophages. This macrophages engulfs this virus as much as possible and produces inflammatory mediators like interleukin 1, interleukin 6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha. So interleukin, any viruses which produce all these mediators, the specific interleukin marker for coronavirus type 2, SARS coronavirus type 2, is interleukin 6. So after production of multiple inflammatory or pro-inflammatory mediators in the alveoli, it again reaches through the ruptured type 2 pneumocytes and enter into the capillary. So alveolar capillary junction. So it enters into the capillary with a rupture of the tight junctions of the endothelium of the capillary. Usually this capillary membrane is a continuum, just like this. But these pro-inflammatory mediators through the ruptured type 2 pneumocytes releases into the parenchyma, from where it goes to the nearest capillary. So ideally structure is like this continuum, vascular endothelium with a tight junction. These pro-inflammatory mediators destroys these tight junctions and enter into the circulation. So here is cytokine storm. This is cytokine storms. Release the pro-inflammatory mediators are called cytokine storm. So there is a space between each endothelium. There is a chance of leaking of plasma. So capillary leak. Finally, this inflammatory mediators reaches the capillary endothelium by the destruction of the tight junction, gap junctions, and releases the intravascular plasma or serum into the parenchyma space. and finally into the alveoli through the damaged type 2 pneumocytes junction. So ideally type 2 pneumocyte function is produced surfactant. So but these type 2 pneumocytes are destroyed and are not able to production the surfactant, and already pre-existed surfactant which is a lipid layer which is dissolved by the this plasma or serum. Then what will happen? So there is surface tension. Usually surfactant action is to reduce the surface tension, thus by prevent the collapse of the alveoli. But here there is no surfactant. So we know the Laplace law. So pressure equal to 2 times of the tension divided by the radius. Here what happens? So there is no surfactant production. Surfactant action is to reduce the surface tension. There is no surfactant tension, increase the surface tension, thereby increase the pressure of alveolar collapse. So finally what will happen? This alveoli tends to collapse, which alters their normal structure and land up in collapse. So there is inadequate oxygenation in and out that leads to hypoxia. So these hypoxic patients may require more and more work to meet the actual VQ ratio, for which they have to do increase work of breathing, nothing but breathlessness or shortness of breath. This is how these coronavirus patients will develop breathlessness or shortness of breath. So coming to the pathophysiology, coronavirus enter into the alveoli, affinity for type 2 pneumocytes. This coronavirus is a positive sense single stranded RNA virus, had specific polypeptide of S spike, which is a virulence factor for this virus, which resistant for all the drugs. This virus enters into the type 2 pneumocytes through the ACE2 receptors, angiotensin converting enzyme type 2 receptors. Then it reaches to the host cell ribosome, where it go translation and produces the multiple polyproteins. And our host cell had two varieties of enzymes. One was RNA dependent RNA polymerase and proteases. By the help of the RNA dependent RNA polymerase, this mRNA may go translation and produce multiple messenger RNAs, and this already preformed polyproteins with the help of the protease produces nucleocapsid, which is a covering layer of the cell membrane of the virus, which had specific neuraminidase enzyme and multiple intracellular organelles and enzymes. So messenger RNAs, nucleocapsid, polypeptides, intracellular organelles, enzymes. Finally, they form fusion and replicates and produces multiple viruses. After forming multiple viruses, these cells had burst out and this cell membrane was damaged, type 2 pneumocyte cell membrane was damaged, and it releases into the alveoli. So where type 1 pneumocytes activates macrophages and engulfs as much as possible of these viruses and produces inflammatory mediators, which is nothing but cytokine storms, like production of interleukin 1, interleukin 6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. Interleukin 6 is specific for coronavirus type 2. From there it enters through the ruptured type 2 pneumocytes, which enters into the parenchyma, from there to capillary, with the destruction of the tight junction of the endothelium, vascular endothelium, and enter into the circulation So if there is a damaged endothelium or leakage endothelium, plasma will or serum will leak. So primarily it enter into the parenchyma where it causes obstruction of the alveoli, and eventually through the rupture-type pneumocytes and enter into the alveoli proper. So there it dissolves the surfactant, so increase surface tension, which leads to increased pressure of alveolar collapse. Finally these alveoli become collapse, and altered structure or collapsed alveoli had ineffective oxygenation in and out, that is called hypoxia. So mismatch of ventilation quotient ratio, for which our body is trying to compensate by the using of accessory muscles of respiration. So thus patient become had increased work of breathing, so clinically present as breathlessness or shortness of breath. This is the main pathophysiology of the coronavirus. Next. So one more thing. So in our capillary circulation, we had plasma, serum along with cells, WBC, which had neutrophils and lymphocytes. So this along with plasma and serum, these neutrophils, trilobar or more, and bilobar structure like lymphocytes, which is large, through plasma enter into the alveoli. So we know that neutrophils will damage the bacteria and the lymphocytes will damage the virus. This is coronavirus. So more and more rapid activation of the lymphocytes, which will try to kill this virus, but it had so many viruses, it kills the our own circulatory lymphocytes. So initially coronavirus type 2 patient, if you do complete blood picture, they show lymphopenia because there is only 100 lymphocytes. We have 10 to the power of 10 viruses which kills all the lymphocytes, but it won't affect any neutrophils. So here already there is plasma, plenty of plasma, and along with neutrophils and debris of the virus and the lymphocytes all together forms, along with fibrin material, forms the consolidation. So initially there is only fluid filled alveoli, fluid nothing but plasma. So later on it is filled by the neutrophils, debris of the lymphocytes and virus along with fibrin material, and forms the consolidation, nothing but pneumonia. So finally consolidation. Again there is decreased effective oxygenation of the stiffened alveoli, so VQ mismatch, and patient able to work more for breathing. So clinically manifest as breathlessness or shortness of breath. So after completion of the pathophysiology, so we have to know the symptoms, clinical features of the coronavirus. So we have so many symptoms of coronavirus 19. So initially cold, cough, sore throat, fever, breathlessness, body aches, nothing but myalgia, arthralgia, and diarrhea. Finally CNS symptoms like altered sensorium, seizures. So cold, how it occurred. So this virus is transmitted airborne, and initially it is struck in the nasal cavity. So when this any foreign material enters into the nasal cavity, first protective reflex is sneezing. So before developing a cold, so what will happen? So sneezing, that is the first clinical symptom. So this pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium with the goblet cells, it tries to expel the foreign material, nothing but coronavirus type 2. So initially they used to develop sneezing. So there is a lot of viruses which will destroy this epithelium and causes inflammation. So produces the histamines which causes itching of nasal cavity. And later on, goblet cells secretes more and more mucus which tries to expel the virus outside. So after that, after itching, usually patients will develop a running nose. Over a period of time, our goblet cells are hyperactive and produces more and more mucus that has become viscid thick. So then it is called proper cold. This infection is spreading from up and down and reaches to the pharynges. So when it reaches to the any foreign material reaches to the pharynx, so next protective reflex is cough reflex. Here the cough is dry cough. So some patients may develop sore throat. Inflammation of the pharynx produces a nodular type of swellings which feels gritty sensation. In children especially, they manifest as dysphagia and odynophagia. In adults, they feel something in their throat, means gritty sensation, sand like sensation, that is called sore throat. So from where it reaches to the from larynx to the trachea. So in trachea there is more and more goblet cells, produce more and more mucus. In inhaled air, there is a air transportation through trachea is turbulence. To prevent the turbulency, so our mucus cells produce more and more mucus which moisture this air and prevent the barotrauma to the trachea. But here what happens? This infection spreads. This is a continuum. So why? Because this pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium is respiratory from starting of nasal cavity up to the alveoli has a continuum epithelium. When it is infected from one side, it is spreading thoroughly. When it reaches to the trachea, so this infection had inflammation of the trachea or main bronchus that leads to bronchitis. So we know the signs of inflammation. So fever, redness, swelling, and loss of function, functionalism, and pain. So in the bronchitis, what will happen? Usually those patients will develop fever. Initially stage of pharyngitis also, or later on developing a bronchitis, they will develop high grade of fever. Here, after infection of this bronchial mucosa, the goblet cells will produce more and more thick mucous material. So in bronchus also, protective reflex is cough. This mucus plug will try to expel by cough reflex, and this is called wet cough. Here the cough is wet cough. Up to pharynges, the cough is a dry cough. When it infects the bronchus or bronchiole, it causes the more and more mucus production, nothing but wet cough, productive cough. Along with fever. From there, infection spread through up to terminal bronchiole followed by alveoli. Then there you know the pathophysiology, and finally they had increased work of breathing, nothing but breathlessness. how they developed body aches, even any viral infection. So what will happen, these pro-inflammatory mediators enter into the capillary, from where into the main systemic circulation, there it goes to the all over the body, where it circulates to the muscle and bone. So in bone it causes osteonecrosis, leads to arthralgia. In muscle causes myonecrosis, called myalgia. Due to myalgia and arthralgia, they have body pains, so severe body pains. That's why they won't able to stand. They need most of the time they need bed rest. Next, coming to the diarrhea. So after entering to the nasal cavity from pharynx, it may go into larynx, there to trachea, bronchus, but there is a chance of spreading of infection from pharynx to esophagus, from esophagus to gastric and enteritis. So any viral infection, bacterial infection is a single system infection. If you have contaminated food, salmonella typhi enter into intestine, it affects only intestinal part. But this viral part had multi-system involvement. It may go into larynx and finally into the alveoli, or pharynx into the esophagus. If you proliferate here, produces a multiple viral load which cause the inflammation of the stomach wall, that is called gastritis. That leads to patient may have vomitings. Then it spreads through the intestinal cavity, causes enteritis, inflammation of the intestine, enteritis, which produces the loose stools, nothing but diarrhea. Finally, CNS symptoms, how they will occur. So final pathophysiology, consolidation or fluid filled alveoli, that leads to obstruction, decreased oxygenation, hypoxia, VQ mismatch. This hypoxia leads to decreased effective oxygenation. Hypoxia leads to hypoxemia. So finally, these patients had decreased oxygenation from hypoxia to hypoxemia, decreased effective oxygen to the brain, that leads to symptomatic CNS manifestation in form of altered sensorium or seizures. This is how these all clinical features will occur in coronavirus type 2. Coming to the examination finding. So usually they have high temperature. We know that they may develop because of pharyngitis or bronchitis, they may have fever, but there is special mechanism for developing a fever in this coronavirus, how it manifests. So we know that there is a pro-inflammatory mediators like interleukin 1, interleukin 6, T-monocrosis factor alpha. It enter into the capillary, from there into main systemic circulation. It reaches to the brain. In the brain, hypothalamus. So these pro-inflammatory mediators had stimulated the hypothalamus to produce the prostaglandin E2, which resets the thermostat center. Hypothalamus is control of temperature regulatory center. So reset the thermostat. That thus it produces fever, which is high grade fever, 103, 104 fever. Apart from local pharyngitis and bronchitis, it is due to inflammation. Other mechanism, inflammatory mediators reaches to the brain, affect the hypothalamus, stimulates the prostaglandin E2, which reset the thermostat regulatory center, nothing but temperature regulatory center, and produce the fever. And in vitals, heart rate increase, respiratory rate increase. How? So final pathophysiology is hypoxia. So hypoxia means decrease effective oxygenation. Partial pressure of oxygen is decrease. So this will affect the chemoreceptors present on the aorta. So these chemoreceptors will trigger, we have baroreceptors and chemoreceptors. These chemoreceptors will triggered by the effect of hypoxia, which stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. In this sympathetic nervous system, what will happen? It had inotropic effect or chronotropic and bathmotropic, all the effects that leads to increase heart rate, tachycardia, and increase sympathetic nervous system through the lung parenchyma produces increase work of breathing, that leads to increase respiratory rate. So hypoxia stimulates the chemoreceptors, stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, had effect on two organs, heart and lung. In heart it causes tachycardia, in lungs it causes tachypnea. Next, in blood pressure they have usually hypotension. How this hypotension will develop? So we know that these inflammatory mediators causes damage to the capillary endothelium, releases the plasma. So this is happen entire systemic circulation. So in entire systemic circulation, what will happen? Systemic inflammatory response syndrome. So there is a gap junctions, release of the total plasma outside, and thus leads to decrease systemic vascular resistance. Decreased systemic vascular resistance leads to decreased blood pressure. How? Normal formula of blood pressure is cardiac output into systemic vascular resistance. If one thing is decreased, automatically final output of blood pressure decrease. So because of plasma leakage, there is a systemic vascular tone resistance is a decrease. So finally blood pressure is decrease. So this how patients will develop hypotension, and this type of shock is called septic shock. There is a virus inside and cause hypotension by decreased systemic vascular resistance due to capillary leak, loss of plasma, finally decrease blood pressure. So decreased blood pressure means decrease adequate circulation to the all vital organs. So decreased perfusion to the all major vital organs. Two major vital organs in our body in acute crisis stage is renal and liver. So decreased effective circulation leads to decreased perfusion to the renal system. So decreased elimination of the metabolic end products of the renal system. Those are called blood urea, nitrogen and creatinine. So decreased effective circulation leads to increase blood urea, nitrogen and creatinine, which is nothing but acute kidney injury. Next, coming to the liver, decreased effective blood circulation to the liver causes dysfunction of the liver cells, Kupffer cells. So finally they may have transaminitis. So acute hypoxic state or infectious state, liver produces enzymes. Those are called AST or ALT. Nothing but SGOT, SGPT. These are elevated enzymes. Liver enzymes will be elevated, and transient elevation of the total bilirubin level, neither direct nor indirect. And also produces the, for hypoxic state, liver produces the, for ischemic state, liver produces the multiple acute phase reactant proteins. Those are called C-reactive protein and fibrinogen and pro-inflammatory mediator protein, nothing but interleukin 6. So in the initial stage of inflammation, it produces the interleukin 6. But liver also produces interleukin 6. This is the specific interleukin marker for SARS coronavirus type 2. So these are the clinical features from top to bottom. Initially they have sneezing, followed by itching, followed by running nose, later cold, cough, initially dry cough, later developed sore throat with a fever, and finally wet cough, productive cough. And the terminal stage of pathophysiology, they developed breathlessness. So circulating inflammatory mediators or circulating viruses causes myonecrosis, leads to myalgia, osteonecrosis leads to arthralgia, nothing but body aches, generalized body pains. And this infection may transmit through pharynges and enter into the intestine and stomach, causes gastritis, vomitings, enteritis leads to loose stools. Finally, breathlessness causes decreased effective circulation from hypoxia to hypoxemia. Decreased effective oxygenation to the brain leads to altered sensorium and seizures. And on examination, temperature increase because of maybe pharyngitis or bronchitis, along with inflammatory mediators stimulate the hypothalamus, produce the prostaglandin to reset the thermostat center, and has fever. And heart rate increase because of hypoxia leads to stimulation of the chemoreceptors, activates the sympathetic nervous system, had two effects on heart and lung. In heart, it causes the sympathetic nervous system activates leads to tachycardia. Sympathetic system activate on lungs, parenchyma leads to production of increase the respiratory rate, that is but tachypnea. And finally, BP was low because of increased capillary leakage leads to decreased systemic vascular resistance. This tends to be collapse. Vascular resistance has been decreased. Finally, BP is decreased. This is ongoing continuum process of inflammation which affect the organs. This is called systemic inflammatory response syndrome, which leads to multi-organ dysfunction. In renal, it causes the decreased renal perfusion leads to increased metabolic end products of blood urea nitrogen, nothing but urea, and increased creatinine. In liver, due to ischemia, transient elevation of the enzyme, the liver enzymes, and bilirubin, and acute phase reactant proteins, nothing but C-reactive protein, and somehow fibrinogen and specific interleukin 6. So this is the clinical spectrum. So incubation period of this coronavirus is 4 to 14 days. As much as long is they may have maximum clinical manifestation up to 24 to 28 days. So usually 2 to 4 weeks. Coming to the investigation part. So we understand all this pathophysiology. So I will pick all the investigation from this pathophysiology only. So routinely we will do CBC, complete blood count or complete blood picture. In this initial 3 to 5 days of illness, these patients may show lymphopenia. Usually if there is any viral infection, we will see lymphocytosis in complete blood count. But lymphopenia, because of initially there is destruction of the lymphocytes by the virus. That's why lymphopenia. So there is a reduction in the lymphopenia. That's why neutrophils will look like more in picture, complete blood picture. Lymphocytes in less. That is called NLR, neutrophil lymphocyte ratio. So usually neutrophils in blood are 40 to 60%. In lymphocytes 20 to 40%. Virus will destroy the lymphocyte, that leads to neutrophils look like 60% only, but these lymphocytes are 3 to 8% only. So if you take the total ratio, neutrophil lymphocyte ratio, it will become more than 3.3, then it is significant for coronavirus. There is another entity like increased neutrophil leukocyte ratio, not always because of coronavirus. It may be because of high neutrophils. How this coronavirus infection, what it causes, it destroys the complete respiratory epithelium. There is a chance of secondary bacterial infection. So in bacterial infection, neutrophils will increase, but lymphocytes were same only. Here neutrophils count were 80 to 90% and the lymphocyte count were 20 to 40%. If you take the ratio, it will also more than 3.3 or 3.5. Then how can we differentiate whether it is a COVID virus related high NLR ratio or secondary bacterial infection related high neutrophil lymphocyte ratio? We have a sepsis mark like C reactive protein, which is present in the bacterial cell wall, along with high NLR ratio, CRP negative, which means there is a active COVID-19 infection. Along with more high NLR ratio with CRP positive, then it is because of secondary bacterial infection. Usually secondary bacterial infection they acquired after 7 to 10 days of primary COVID-19 illness. So some people attributed that there is a second spike of coronavirus, usually 4 to 14 days of illness. Initially one spike in the 5 to 7 days, followed by gap of 3 days, followed by second spike. Not actually it is a second spike, it is because of secondary bacterial infection. In second spike also there is high NLR ratio, but if you do CRP, if it is positive, this second spike because of opportunistic secondary bacterial infection, not because of primary disease proper. Okay. Next, coming to the LFT. So in LFT, so enzymes are elevated, bilirubin is elevated, and RFT increase urea and creatinine. And coming to the sepsis markers, any viral of any sepsis, viral, bacterial, fungal, anything. So initial sepsis marker is procal, means procalcitonin, which is produced by the parathyroid hormone. For any type of infectious material, so it will it enter into the circulation, it reaches to the parathyroid gland, which produce the inflammation of the parathyroid gland, which produce the inflammatory mediator. Sepsis marker is procalcitonin. If it is high, then it is a definitely infection is there inside. Next, coming to the CRP. If you do CRP in the initial days of illness, if it is shown negative, then it is completely viral infection. There is no secondary superadded bacterial infection. Okay. Next, another investigations. ESR, erythrocyte sedimentation. There is capillary leakage of plasma. The clumping of all the cells form the rouleau formation. If you take the vestibular tube, it leads to, which shows the increase the sedimentation ratio of not only erythrocyte, platelets, WBC, everything because of plasma leakage. High ESR. Next, if you monitor proper interleukin levels, interleukin 6 will elevated from the normal cutoffs, and in the blood it's proper. You will see the LDH, elevated LDH, lactate dehydrogenase, which is produced by the lactic acid metabolism. How lactate dehydrogenase will elevated? So this is a hypoxia condition. Hypoxia to the all the main vital organs leads to multi-organ dysfunction. If there is a hypoxia, anaerobic metabolism will take place, which produce the more and more lactic acid, more and more H plus ions, which causes the metabolic acidosis. So in lactic acid metabolism, active enzyme is lactate dehydrogenase. That's why, because of hypoxia, anaerobic metabolism will take place and produce the more and more lactic acid, and it elevates the lactate dehydrogenase enzyme. And serum ferritin, normal iron storage form in the blood circulation is ferritin. For any type of infection, even bacterial, viral, this acute inflammatory mediator, sepsis marker, which is also sepsis marker, this will elevate, serum ferritin level will elevates. And finally, D-dimer. So D-dimer is the end product of fibrinogen. if you monitor properly, fibrinogen level will decrease and D-dimer level will increase. So how this fibrinogen level decrease and that end products of D-dimer were elevated. So after leakage of all plasma material outside of the capillary, there is a Rayleigh formation of all the cells, not only red blood cells, WBC and platelets, and there is a chance of formation of thrombus. There is no plasma, so clumping of all the cells, formation of the thrombus. So these platelets are clumping. Platelets. So where platelets are clumping, the final in coagulation factor will help to stabilize them, and finally fibrin material will form a mesh. So this is called thrombi, microthrombi. So consumption of all coagulation factors and fibrin material, and that leads to disseminated intravascular coagulation, like the bed consumption of coagulopathy because of plasma leakage, clumping of all the cells which utilize the circulating coagulation factors and fibrin material forms the microthrombi. If this microthrombi will dislodge, formation of embolus. So embolus is nothing but migrated thrombus. If it reaches to the brain, causes stroke. If it reaches to the coronary circulation, leads to myocardial infarction, and it reaches to the mesentery, causes gut ischemia, and it reaches to the liver, renal or spleen, leads to infarction of the renal infarction, spleen infarction and liver infarction. So that's why we are giving coagulation therapy in these corona patients. So these are the investigation panel. So CBC, lymphopenia initially, followed by lymphocytosis, nuclear neutrophil lymphocyte ratio more than 3.3 or 3.5 elevated because of lymphopenia initially or secondary bacterial infection later on. CRP usually negative. If it is positive, which means secondary bacterial infection. In LFT, all enzymes and bilirubin were elevated, and RFT showing up acute kidney injury features, and procal will elevated, and CRP in negative because this is viral infection. If it is secondary bacterial infection superadded, then CRP will show positive. And increase the erythrocyte sedimentation ratio. Increased specific inflammatory mediator for coronavirus is interleukin 6 produced by the liver. So in the setting of hypoxia, anaerobic metabolism will take place, produce lactic acid, which leads to elevation of the lactate dehydrogenase. And acute inflammatory marker for sepsis is ferritin, which increase serum ferritin level, and the D-dimer will elevated, and fibrinogen usually decrease because of formation of microthrombi in the circulation, which cause the venous thromboembolism. To prevent that, we are giving anticoagulation like enoxaparin and unfractionated heparin.